Try closing your eyes for 5 seconds. Do nothing. Don't think. Just be still. Do you hear it? Not the noise of the street, the ping of your phone, or the endless conversations, but a faint voice buried deep within you, a place you've long forgotten to visit. It is there, in the stillness, that all things begin, not from striving, not from worry or control, but from a deliberate letting go. The state we call tranquility. We live in an age where everyone runs after success, after happiness, after validation. Yet the more we chase, the further we drift from ourselves. And the irony is this: true strength, the very thing we seek, only emerges when we stop to listen, stop to reconnect, and stop to remember. We do not need to force life in any particular direction. We need only to learn how to live more deeply with what is already here. 1. Letting go of control. This is where strength begins. In the modern world, control has become a reflex. We try to control our schedules, relationships, outcomes at work, even the emotions and behaviors of others. The illusion of control gives us a sense of safety, as if we could avoid risk and bend life to our will. Yet Stoicism reminds us, the more we grasp for control, the more we lose our true inner power. The ancient Stoics divided all things into 2 distinct categories: what lies within our control and what does not. What belongs to us, our thoughts, choices, reactions, and moral character, is the only realm we can truly govern. Things like the weather, the actions of others, external outcomes, and even our physical health to some extent. These lie beyond our direct command. When we confuse these 2 realms and attempt to control the uncontrollable, the result is often anxiety, frustration, and exhaustion. A vivid example of this is Javier, a successful executive. He poured nearly all his time and energy into orchestrating every detail of his work and personal life. A packed calendar, high expectations from his staff, pressure from family and society. Javier believed that if he managed things tightly enough, everything would fall into place. But the tighter he held the reins, the more things veered off course. He began to lose sleep. His mood became unstable. His relationships strained. Eventually, his body spoke. Complete burnout. It was at this lowest point that Javier was forced to stop. He stepped away from work for a while and chose to face the silence. No meetings, no phone calls, no news. At first, the emptiness unsettled him, but slowly, within this space he could not control, something else emerged: clarity. As he released his grip on everything, his mind grew lighter, more lucid. He began to see that the things that truly matter, inner balance, gratitude, presence with loved ones, had been lost in the pursuit of control over what was never his to command. From a Stoic perspective, Javier's journey is not one of failure, but of awakening. It proves that only when we release the need to control the external do we gain mastery over the internal. And that is the foundation of a life that is strong, resilient, and free. Letting go is not surrender. It is a conscious, courageous act. It demands the bravery to acknowledge limits, accept reality, and return to what we truly own: our responses, our perspectives, our chosen actions. When someone gives up the desire to change what lies beyond their reach, they are not weak. They are freeing themselves from a futile war. One of the images often used to express this philosophy is holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you open your hand and let it rest gently, you hold more with less effort. Likewise, when we stop forcing life to go our way, harmony finds its way back in. Good things come not because we control them, but because we've made space for them to arise. Stoicism does not ask us to abandon dreams or resign to fate. On the contrary, it teaches us to focus on what we can do best: self-discipline, inner cultivation, equanimity in the face of adversity. And to do that, the first step is always this: let go of the illusion that we can control everything. Letting go is a doorway, and beyond that doorway lies true strength, the kind born from self-mastery, from standing firm in the storm without needing to command the sea. When we understand this, we no longer fear losing power. We come to see that real power was never out there. It has always been within, and it has been waiting for us to notice. 2. Relaxation is not surrender. It is preparation. When under pressure, the most common reaction in a modern life is to speed up. People do more, think more, worry more, believing that the harder they push, the closer they get to their goal. But in the inner world, that logic often fails. Stoicism reminds us that effort is not always the key. Sometimes, timely relaxation is the ground from which right action arises. Relaxation, from the Stoic perspective, is not resignation, neglect, or apathy toward life. It does not mean withdrawing from responsibility or letting things unkeyed without care. On the contrary, it is a deliberate state where the mind finds balance between awareness and action, between objective observation and the ability to respond appropriately. In this state, one is not swept away by emotional chaos, but sees the essence of the situation clearly, making wiser decisions. A metaphor often used to describe this is a person holding a bow. Pull too hard, and the string may snap. Pull too little, and the arrow won't fly far. Relaxation is the moment the archer steadies their breath, focuses their gaze, and steadies their hand. Just before release, it is a brief but intentional stillness. The point of balance before action is taken with full precision. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of being present as a method to keep the mind from scattering. When one juggles many tasks at once, they often skim the surface of action, never truly inhabiting any of it. This not only reduces the quality of outcomes, but also breeds ongoing tension, leaving the spirit disoriented. In contrast, when we perform a single task with full attention, be it washing dishes, writing, eating, or even walking, the mind finds natural rest within the action itself. A familiar illustration of this is the contrast between two people cooking. The first rushes through it, eyes on their phone, mind occupied with unfinished work, constantly pushing to go faster. The second, though preparing the same dish, moves with calm focus, unhurried, present. In the end, not only is the second meal better, but the cook also feels more at peace. This isn't about speed or skill. It's about how one shows up in the moment. For the Stoic practitioner, relaxation is not a luxury. It is part of the discipline. It is a way to conserve energy, to protect the nervous system from the erosion of chronic stress. By taking time each day to do nothing, perhaps just a few minutes of stillness, breathing, observing thoughts as they pass, one creates space for clarity to return. That space is where true preparation happens. Not every action must begin with effort. Sometimes the best thing we can do is step back, quiet the mind, and wait for the right moment to move. Just as still water best reflects a clear image, a relaxed mind allows us to see the path ahead with greater accuracy. In Stoic thought, relaxation is not merely a pleasant state. It is a capacity. That capacity allows a person to stand amidst turbulence without fatigue, move forward without being swept away by pressure, and to choose action from a foundation of awareness rather than from fear or haste. 3. Act without strain. Act with intention. In a society that prizes productivity and speed, people often feel compelled to always be doing something. Doing more is treated as a benchmark of success, while pausing to listen inward is sometimes mistaken for weakness or stagnation. Yet from the Stoic perspective, Not all actions carry the same value. The worth of an action is not found in its urgency or volume, but in its clarity of purpose and the presence we bring to its execution. Stoicism teaches that we should only act when the inner state has found its balance. The ideal action is not driven by impulsive emotion or vague fear. It is action taken with clarity, after understanding what lies within our control and what does not. When one acts from awareness, each decision becomes steady, less shaken by the volatility of the world outside. The difference between strained action and intentional action lies in the originating motive. Strained action often springs from lack, anxiety, or pressure. One acts out of fear of falling behind, a need to prove something, or simply from the inability to stop being busy. In contrast, intentional action begins in clarity. The person knows what they are doing, why they are doing it, and how it aligns with their deeper values. A key point in Stoic philosophy is the link between action and intention. Even the grandest action, if disconnected from right intention, yields no lasting result. By contrast, a small act, done with attention and a spirit of service, can leave a lasting impact. This is why the Stoics encourage doing each thing fully, not for recognition, but for presence in each moment. In practice, many seemingly efficient actions lead to burnout when the body, mind, and heart are not in agreement. When the body races ahead, the mind drowns in worry, and the heart doubts the chosen path. That is the formula for inner chaos. On the other hand, when action arises from a calm interior, the body is no longer driven by panic, but guided by certainty. A frequently cited example is Captain Chesley Sullenberger, who landed a failing plane on the Hudson River. Under immense pressure, he did not react in panic, but chose his actions from calm and focused presence. As a result, every passenger survived. This case clearly shows that, in moments of life and death, right action does not come from haste, but from long inner preparation and the ability to remain lucid under duress. Stoicism is not opposed to action. On the contrary, it honors practical action. Yet this philosophy teaches that every act should begin with understanding and self-command. When a person is awake enough to discern what must be done and what must be let go, they stop chasing hollow ambition or bending to others' expectations. They act not to prove their worth, but to fulfill their role in the order of the world. Thus, the ideal Stoic action is not loud, nor a string of calculations. It is quiet, steady, directed, and grounded in purpose. When someone acts with clear intention, every step becomes part of their inner evolution, even when nothing outwardly appears remarkable. 4. Failure, the foundation of all creation. In the course of human growth, failure is inevitable. Yet how one responds to failure makes all the difference. For those shaped by conventional thinking, failure marks the end, a sign of inadequacy or lack of talent. But in Stoicism, failure is not a source of shame. Instead, it is seen as an essential part of self-discipline and the discovery of one's limits. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "It's not what happens that matters, but how we perceive and respond to it." Through this lens, failure no longer defines a person's worth. It becomes a neutral event. What matters is what one chooses to learn from it, and how that knowledge is carried forward. A clear example of this spirit is the creation of the Post-it note, now one of the most widely used office products in the world. Initially, the adhesive developed by scientist Spencer Silver at 3M was considered a failure because it lacked lasting stickiness. Years later, however, a colleague realized the adhesive was ideal for making notes that could be attached and removed without damage. That insight gave rise to a hugely successful product line and lasting value for the company. What began as a technical misstep became the foundation of a revolutionary innovation. Stoic thought emphasizes that failure does not diminish human value. On the contrary, it offers a chance to reassess one's approach, re-examine assumptions, and adjust course. A Stoic does not avoid failure. They prepare for it as a possible outcome and train their mind to meet it with calm and clarity. This keeps them from drowning in negativity when things don't go as planned. In the creative realm, failure is often a catalyst. Many scientists, artists, and entrepreneurs have discovered breakthroughs through mistakes. Each failure acts as a map that redraws boundaries, showing where not to go, and in doing so, uncovers paths never seen before. The key is not letting disappointment distort the mind, but rather meeting failure as an active learning process. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, what stands in the way becomes the way. This is a profound shift in perspective. Rather than seeing obstacles as delays, the Stoic sees them as integral to the path of growth. When this mindset is adopted, failure loses its threat. It becomes a tool, rough but powerful. For that reason, Stoicism does not deny, conceal, or downplay failure. It brings it into the light, analyzes it, faces it with courage, not to complain, but to learn, not to self-blame, but to correct course. Because only when we are willing to fail can we truly explore our hidden potential, a capacity that doesn't arise from perfection, but from the continual act of surpassing ourselves. 5. Imagination, a technique for programming reality. Though Stoicism is often associated with reason, discipline, and self-control, one lesser-known yet essential element is the role of imagination. Not imagination as fantasy or escapism, but the capacity to vividly and deliberately envision what one intends to create as a tool to guide action and shape thought. The human brain cannot fully distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. Modern neuroscience has shown that when we mentally rehearse a specific action, such as running, playing an instrument, or speaking in public, the same brain regions activate as if we were actually performing it. This forms the basis of the concept programming reality through imagination, where thought lays the groundwork for action. Though the Stoic philosophers didn't use modern terminology, they clearly understood the power of shaping thought through deliberate visualization. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, repeatedly describes imagining upcoming events, both unexpected and unpleasant, to mentally prepare his response. This exercise wasn't an attempt to control the future, but to program the inner response toward reason and resilience. Visualization in Stoic thought is not merely the act of picturing a desired outcome. It must be specific, feasible, and consistent with one's core value. When someone visualizes a goal, they must imagine the full picture, the feelings of achievement, the behaviors required, and even the obstacles along the way. In doing so, imagination becomes not just the origin of motivation, but a method of psychological and practical readiness. A common technique is writing a goal as if it has already been achieved. Instead of saying, "I want to have a strong body," the Stoic would write, "I am living with strength and vitality." This isn't self-deception, but cognitive reprogramming, a way to cultivate readiness and drive aligned action. When the mind believes something is already in motion, it begins to seek evidence and shape behavior to confirm that belief. Imagination is also used to cultivate steadiness by picturing oneself staying rational during stress, facing criticism, failure, or loss. The Stoic prepares mentally to resist being overtaken by emotion. This builds inner strength before action, enabling a response grounded in conscious choice rather than reflexive reaction. In the modern world, where the mind is easily scattered by information and external pressures, using imagination as an inner programming tool becomes especially useful. It allows individuals to redesign their perception of life, clarify priorities, and act in line with the person they intend to become. Rather than waiting for ideal conditions, they actively create a mental prototype and begin living into it. Thus, imagination is not a toy for children or a playground for dreamers. It is a spiritual skill the Stoic uses as an internal compass. When used wisely, imagination does not pull us away from reality. It brings us closer to a life of clarity, structure, and conscious direction. 6. Inner peace, the ground from which all potential emerges. In the Stoic path, peace is not viewed as the final reward, but as the foundation upon which all other virtues and capacities can flourish. Contrary to the common belief that peace is a static, passive, or resigned state, Stoic philosophy defines peace as an active and deep condition, where one is unmoved by external turbulence or fleeting emotions. Peace, according to Stoic thought, does not arise from the world conforming to our wishes. It comes from knowing what belongs to us, what does not, and focusing entirely on what lies within our control. When the mind no longer struggles against what cannot be changed, inner energy transforms into stability, clarity, and resilience. It is into this state that clear thinking, sound decision-making, and effective action are born. Peace is also what allows us to maintain a wide and objective perspective in the face of adversity. Instead of reacting impulsively, the Stoic chooses to pause, observe, and respond with intention. In moments of pressure, the unpeaceful mind is easily overtaken by emotion, loses judgment, and tends to overreact. In contrast, one who holds peace meets the moment with stillness, and from that place offers solutions that are both precise and enduring. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor and Stoic philosopher, emphasized that external chaos cannot breach a mind trained in inner balance. Even in war, he made time to journal daily, anchoring himself inwardly. This reflects the core of Stoicism. We cannot control the world, but we can learn to keep the world within us undisturbed. Inner peace also serves as the wellspring that nourishes other virtues. From peace arises patience, for anxiety no longer rushes the heart. From peace comes gratitude, since the mind no longer compares or condemns. And from peace, we connect more deeply with intuition and wisdom, enabling us to perceive what truly matters, rather than being led by noise and societal expectation. In practice, many confuse peace with avoidance, but peace is not turning away from difficulty. It is the ability to face it without being swept away. When a person steps into challenge with a grounded mind, they do not lose direction. Instead, they radiate that stability to others. Peace, in this sense, becomes a transmitting force, quiet but powerful. Peace is also the necessary condition for imagination, creativity, and empathy to reach their full expression. When the mind is freed from anxiety and inner turmoil, clear insight begins to emerge. In this state, we no longer act from a need to control, but open ourselves to the unknown and the uncertain, with a receptive heart and an awakened mind. With such a foundation, peace is not merely a destination. It is the beginning of a life that is balanced, effective, and purpose-driven. In every step, from thought to action, from creation to relationship, inner peace is the ground where all potential is born and nourished. 7. The art of saying no, protecting vital energy. In today's world, where people face constant invitations, demands, and expectations from the outside. The ability to say no has become a survival skill. Refusal is no longer just a matter of communication. It is a way to shape one's life, defend personal boundaries, and preserve autonomy. In Stoic philosophy, saying no is not about rejecting others, but about staying loyal to one's core values and protecting inner energy from being unconsciously scattered. Stoicism emphasizes that our greatest assets are not material wealth or social status, but time, focus, and mental energy. When we say yes mindlessly to every request, we deplete these precious resources on things that neither serve our purpose nor nourish our being. The inability to refuse leads many into exhaustion, disorientation, and the loss of control over their own lives. In Stoic practice, saying no is tied to the principle of distinguishing what is within our control from what is not. Not every request needs to be fulfilled, and not every expectation deserves our attention. When a person understands their values and limits, they begin to see that refusal is not a negative act. It is a positive one, meant to protect the inner space where peace, clarity, and long-term purpose can grow. Saying no is also an expression of conscious choice rather than reactive behavior. Often, agreement stems not from willingness, but from fear of judgment, guilt, or the desire to please. These motives trade inner calm for external approval. But Stoic philosophy holds that personal worth should not be measured by how well we meet others' expectations, but by our consistency with our own principles. A Stoic learns to say no with calm, not in defiance, but with firmness. They do not feel the need for long explanations, nor do they use refusal as a weapon. Instead, they rely on silence, clarity, and presence to show that their decision is rooted not in emotion, but in self-respect and understanding. This protects vital energy and strengthens self-mastery, a core Stoic ideal. Refusal also serves as a filter for distraction. In an age of excessive information and choice, it's easy to be drawn into the unnecessary. Saying no keeps the mind clean, allowing it to receive only what truly contributes to inner growth. When one learns to decline at the right time, they can focus on fewer things, but do them more deeply and more effectively. Saying no is not a severing of ties with the world. It is the cultivation of a new kind of connection, more honest, more meaningful, and grounded in mutual respect. In this light, every refusal is not distancing, but a movement closer to one's true self. From a Stoic perspective, mastering the art of saying no is an act of liberation. It frees us from the pressure to please, from wasted time, and from what disturbs the mind. In doing so, we return to what matters most, guarding our inner world, protecting our vital energy, and living in alignment with the life we've consciously chosen. 8. Practicing solitude, returning to the self. In modern society, where life moves quickly, connections are constant, and informational noise is ever present, solitude is often misunderstood as a negative state. It is associated with abandonment, isolation, or emotional lack. However, in Stoic philosophy, solitude is not something to be avoided, but a necessary space in which one returns to oneself, separates from distractions, and renews personal awareness. Stoicism views solitude as a tool for mental purification. When we step away from external influences, praise and criticism, social comparisons, and the expectations of others, we gain the chance to listen more clearly to the inner voice. In silence, one can observe their thoughts without interference from the noise and rhythm of the crowd. This is the first step in understanding who we are, what we think, and whether those thoughts truly reflect our essence. or merely echo our surroundings. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often reminded himself to seek solitude to restore his spirit after hours spent in court, on the battlefield, or managing the empire. For him, solitude didn't require physical isolation. It was an internal state, detached from the need to please the world. He believed a person could find quiet, even in a crowd, if they cultivated the ability to resist being pulled by the external. Practicing solitude is also a way to train self-mastery. Without the influence of social interaction, one must face oneself, both the light and the shadow within. This can be uncomfortable, but that confrontation is the condition for deeper self-knowledge. In Stoic philosophy, one who has never learned to sit quietly with themselves has not truly come to know themselves and cannot yet lead a life of depth. Solitude also creates space for critical thinking and creativity. When the mind is freed from imposed opinions, one can ask bigger questions and move beyond a conventional thought. Many of history's great ideas were born in solitary moments, when one was not trying to prove anything to the world, but simply listening to the deeper stirrings within. However, for solitude to become a source of insight rather than isolation, it must be approached with intention and practice. In Stoic discipline, solitude is not a permanent withdrawal from the world, but a temporary retreat from its current to reconnect with the inner axis, carving out daily or weekly moments of quiet, be it a morning without social media, a solitary walk, or a period of silent meditation, are concrete ways to preserve inner balance. Solitude also helps reestablish personal values. In stillness, it becomes easier to see what truly matters, rather than living by priorities dictated by society. Decisions made in such a state are grounded in deep understanding, not fleeting emotion or group pressure. This is what builds a life of depth, where every act begins in self-awareness rather than reflex. From a Stoic point of view, practicing solitude is a form of advanced mental training. It requires courage to face oneself, patience to remain in silence, and awareness to discern what must be held onto and what should be released. When this is achieved, one no longer fears solitude. They come to cherish it as a loyal companion, always leading them back to the truth of who they are. 9. Reconnecting with the body. Meditation in motion. In Stoic philosophy, a human being is not defined solely by reason, but also by the capacity to govern the physical body, the vessel through which all experience unfolds. Although Stoicism is best known for its teachings on thought and inner discipline, it has always placed importance on care for the body. Reconnecting with the body is not merely a health issue, but a philosophical act, restoring the unity of body and mind, which is essential to living a balanced and conscious life. The body is where all emotions, thoughts, and memories are recorded and expressed. A tense mind often manifests through physical signs like rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing, and weak muscles. Conversely, inner peace can be recognized through steady breath, gentle gestures, and fluid movement. Therefore, observing and caring for the body becomes a direct, tangible way to approach the inner life. Stoicism does not promote neglect of the physical. On the contrary, Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius emphasize the importance of personal discipline, including physical training, moderation in eating, and the maintenance of health as part of self-mastery. To them, the body was an instrument for practicing virtue, a tool for fulfilling one's duties and living rationally. A weak, neglected body becomes an obstacle to right action and clear thinking. The concept of meditation in motion can be seen as a practical extension of this principle. Rather than meditating only in stillness, One can maintain bodily awareness even while in motion, while walking, exercising, or performing everyday tasks. Each step becomes an intentional act. Each movement is an opportunity to observe the rhythm of breath, the tension and release of muscles, and the connection between the inner and outer worlds. Meditation in motion requires no special conditions. It can begin with simple acts like washing hands slowly, eating mindfully, or walking without a device. When full attention is brought into the present moment, the mind gradually quiets, and we become more aware of our true internal state. In Stoic terms, this is a form of emotional mastery, not by suppression, but by understanding and observation. Reconnecting with the body also reestablishes our relationship with limitation. The body, with its clear boundaries of energy, endurance, and aging, is a reminder that we cannot control everything. And yet, the care and listening we offer the body lie entirely within our power. This is the core Stoic mindset, to clearly distinguish between what we can and cannot control, and to give ourselves fully to what is ours to manage. The practice of meditation in motion also introduces pause into the rush of daily life. Instead of being swept away by speed, we are reminded of the value of each step, each breath. In these moments, the mind is refreshed, emotions settle, and clarity emerges. It is not only a path to better health, but a return to self-governance, where body and mind no longer stand apart. From the Stoic perspective, reconnecting with the body is an essential part of the journey towards self-mastery. When a person becomes fully present in every movement, they not only enhance physical well-being, but also develop mindful awareness, a critical skill for maintaining reason, inner peace, and virtue in any circumstance. 10. Wisdom in sleep, renewal, and alignment. In the Stoic pursuit of inner cultivation, sleep is not merely a biological function for physical rest. It is viewed as a pivotal phase for restoring the spirit, reorganizing thought, and reinforcing the principles practiced throughout the day. Stoicism holds discipline as essential in all areas of life, including the regulation of sleep rhythms to preserve willpower and clarity of mind. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often used the evening as a time for self-examination. Before sleep, he would journal, reviewing his actions, emotions, and thoughts from the day. This was his method for clarifying what had aligned with reason, what had gone astray, and what lessons could be drawn. This act not only cleansed the mind, but laid the groundwork for deep sleep, during which those guided reflections would continue to be processed unconsciously. Sleep is understood as a state in which the body and mind enter natural regeneration. During this time, the brain regions responsible for memory, emotion, and reasoning are restored. For the Stoic practitioner, this is more than a biological function. It is a continuation of self-training. A day that ends in tranquility and mindfulness is followed by restful sleep, which in turn strengthens the inner reserves for the day to come. Beyond restoration, sleep is also when the brain reorganizes information and forms new patterns of thought. Whatever one focused on during the day, beliefs, imagery, or repeated thoughts, is registered and restructured by the brain during sleep. For this reason, Stoics often use sleep as a tool to reprogram the mind. They close the day by reinforcing core values through reflection, journaling, or meditation, allowing the subconscious to carry on the work in rest. Creating a pre-sleep ritual is an important part of the disciplined Stoic life. Common methods include turning off electronic devices at least 30 minutes before bed to reduce blue light stimulation, writing down 3 lessons learned during the day, and setting a simple intention for tomorrow. These small acts guide the brain into a relaxed state, reduce mental strain, and improve sleep quality, thereby supporting self-regulation and personal growth. Along with promoting recovery, sleep serves as a sacred pause, a retreat from the world's noise back into oneself. In that state, emotional layers, social roles, and daily responsibilities fade, revealing the center where the mind can rest without judgment, comparison, or pressure. To the Stoic, this is a treasured moment to preserve equilibrium and prevent reason from being eroded by the chaos of ordinary life. Sleep is not treated lightly in Stoic philosophy. On the contrary, it is honored and disciplined like every other act in a conscious life. One who sleeps sufficiently, properly, and at the right time is better equipped to regulate emotions, sustain focus, and make wise decisions. These are the foundations of rational living, fidelity to one's values, and a life aligned with one's true nature. Core aims of the Stoic path. 11. Gratitude as a way of life, opening the door to what is good. In the foundations of Stoic philosophy, gratitude is not merely a pleasant feeling or a spontaneous reaction to fortune. It is viewed as a deliberate attitude, a conscious choice to direct the mind toward what is present, rather than being swept into the spiral of lack, comparison, and unrealistic expectation. Gratitude is the soil in which contentment grows, helping us remain composed amid change, and to clearly distinguish between what is essential and what is just trivial. Stoic philosophers like Seneca encourage the practice of gratitude as a form of self-mastery. When one sees value in simple things, a full meal, a day without illness, a moment of quiet, they remind themselves of what is already sufficient, rather than being driven by endless desire. In this view, gratitude does not slow progress. It anchors it, allowing one to move forward steadily, undisturbed by external fluctuation. Gratitude is also a powerful tool for transforming perception. A situation may remain the same, but approaching it with a grateful mindset can make the experience entirely different. When instead of complaining, we ask, "What am I learning from this?" we begin a process of cognitive restructuring, turning hardship into insight and limitation into the opportunity for growth. A commonly told story illustrating gratitude is that of the farmer and the crowded house. Overwhelmed by the cramped space, the farmer is advised to bring in one animal after another: chickens, pigs, even a cow. When chaos becomes unbearable, he is then told to remove them one by one. In the end, with only the original house remaining, he feels relieved and grateful, as if gifted something new. This story reveals a vital truth. Gratitude often comes not from having more, but from recognizing the worth of what we already have. In Stoic practice, cultivating gratitude is not an emotional whim, but a discipline to be trained regularly. Common methods include keeping a daily gratitude journal, listing 3 small positives each day, or quietly reflecting each morning on what is worthy of appreciation. These simple acts require little time, yet powerfully reshape one's attitude toward life. Gratitude also serves as an emotional regulator. When we are caught in anxiety, anger, or disappointment, returning to what we have can restore balance. This is especially vital in the Stoic path, which emphasizes emotional governance and living in accordance with reason. Gratitude does not eliminate negative emotions instantly, but it reduces their dominance by creating an inner space where feelings no longer hold total control. From the Stoic perspective, gratitude is not the reward for achieving something. It is the starting point for a life of depth. When we live in gratitude, we not only enjoy the present, but also build a resilient mental foundation for meeting the future, whether favorable or not. In such a state, good things are no longer seen as random fortune, but as the natural result of a mind cultivated in appreciation and awareness. 12. Resetting the inner compass. Each day is a return. In every human journey, there are moments when fatigue, distraction, or disorientation disconnect us from what truly matters. That's when external standards, achievements, social expectations, or competitive pressure begin to drown out the quiet voice within. According to Stoic philosophy, this is not failure, but a sign that it's time to pause and reset the inner compass. The inner compass symbolizes one's personal system of values, principles, and conscious choices. It is not imposed from the outside, but formed through reflection, discipline, and intentional living. In Stoicism, maintaining the precision of this compass is non-negotiable, as it is the only instrument that helps us stay oriented amid life's chaos. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often reminded himself of his purpose, the virtues he must uphold, and the roles he must fulfill as a person, a citizen, and a leader. Writing, repeating, and contemplating these truths helped him remain awake to his deeper self, and served as a way to recalibrate his inner compass each day. This is a simple yet powerful practice to guard against distraction, aimlessness, and unconscious living. Resetting the inner compass doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's as small as spending a few minutes each morning asking, "What truly matters today?" That question can bring clarity to what once felt tangled, strip away false priorities, and bring the mind back to what endures. In Stoic thought, beginning the day with clarity of purpose ensures that action throughout the day remains consistent, undisturbed by fleeting emotions or circumstance. The inner compass also acts as a safeguard against personal crises. When faced with difficulty, those with clear direction are less likely to waver because their decisions are not shaped by convenience or fear. They rely on principles established beforehand and act in alignment with the values they've chosen. This yields self-command, minimizes regret, and reinforces trust in oneself. Resetting the inner compass each day is not only a personal act, it carries deep social meaning. A person who lives in accordance with their direction becomes a model of integrity, coherence, and reliability. They are not easily swayed by trends or opinion. As a result, they influence their environment, not through rhetoric, but through conscious presence. In Stoic practice, there are many ways to reset the inner compass: journaling, reflective meditation, inner dialogue, or revisiting one's chosen principles. Each of these serves a shared goal: to align outer action with inner value. That alignment is the bedrock of a life that is deep, stable, and meaningful. Every day is an opportunity to return to oneself, not because we've wandered too far, but because in life's current, drifting is inevitable. What matters is not avoiding the drift, but knowing how to come back. And in that return, the inner compass, shaped by Stoic thought, is a trustworthy companion. Practicing Stoicism doesn't require us to overhaul our entire lives overnight. What I've learned after years of engaging with this philosophy is that all meaningful change begins with very small but intentional actions. When faced with an unpleasant situation, a frustrating email, a delayed meeting, or someone behaving unfairly, instead of reacting impulsively, I've built the habit of pausing, taking a deep breath, and asking myself, is this within my control? That question acts as a mental break, helping me conserve energy and avoid handing over control of my emotions to someone else. Most importantly, I've learned to appreciate the simple things: a warm meal, a quiet afternoon, or an honest conversation. Gratitude is the most fertile ground upon which the mind becomes resilient. To practice Stoicism is not to live rigidly, but to live with depth. And each day we are offered the chance to return to ourselves, beginning with one small action, one clear thought, one peaceful moment. If you feel this journey is touching something within you, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. Because sometimes, all it takes is a single moment of awareness for an entire life to change direction. I'll see you in the next video.